Welcome to the Unfading Truth Bible Reading Plan. It's Friday. That means we're reading the Psalms. Today we're reading Psalm 63. You can cling to God because He's clinging to you. Psalm 63. It's a psalm of David when he was in the desert of Judah. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. I have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and your glory. Because your love is better than life, my lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. I will be fully satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips my mouth will praise you. On my bed I remember you. I think of you through the watches of the night. Because you are my help, I sing in the shadow of your wings. I cling to you. Your right hand upholds me. Those who want to kill me will be destroyed. They will go down to the depths of the earth. They will be given over to the sword and become food for jackals. But the king will rejoice in God. All who swear by God will glory in him, while the mouths of the liars will be silenced. Well, let's take one last look here at article number 13 of point number 5, talking about how this assurance that we have of our salvation, well, that doesn't lead us to carelessness or sin. This renewed confidence of perseverance does not produce immorality or a lack of concern for godliness in those put back on their feet after a fall. Rather, it produces a much greater concern to observe carefully the ways of the Lord, which He prepared in advance. We observe these ways in order that by walking in them, we might maintain the assurance of our perseverance, lest by our abuse of His fatherly goodness, the face of our gracious God would turn away from us again, with the result that we would fall into greater anguish of spirit. Well, we're probably reading through Psalm 63 at the wrong time of the year. Most of you see nothing but snow as you look out right now, and for those of you who find yourselves listening to this in more tropical climes, please don't describe your current weather conditions in the comment box below. We don't want to hear it. But David comes to us this morning from a far different place than our current upper Midwestern snowscapes. He's in a dry and parched land where there is no water. Psalm 63's inscription, that's the italic header seen so often throughout the Psalter that explains its author, the setting, and sometimes even the tune that the psalm should be sung to. That inscription informs us that David wrote it in the desert of Judah. But it wasn't his physical lack of water that drove him to poetry. It was his spiritual thirst for God, my God, that David earnestly sought. David knows exactly what he's missing because of all the times he's seen God in the sanctuary and beheld His power and glory. Well, it's true that our sanctuaries look far different than the tabernacle in which David worshiped God. It's not the physical place that David longs for. It's being in God's holy presence and experiencing His love, which is better than life. We've noticed often these last weeks that life can feel like a long walk through a valley darkened by death's shadow. That's the way that David so famously described it in Psalm 23. But here in Psalm 63, David sings of a far more pleasant shadow, the shadow of God's wings. Because you are my help, David writes, I sing in the shadow of your wings. In God, David finds shade from death's dark shadow. And so can you. Let's dig a little bit deeper. David describes a beautiful tensegrity in the verse that drew our attention to Psalm 63 today, and that's verse 8. He wrote, I cling to you, and your right hand upholds me. You've probably heard the trite bumper sticker phrase, let go and let God. Ostensibly, the cliche is meant to remind that God's right hand upholds me, and of course that's true. Those are David's and so many other biblical writers' exact words. But nowhere does the Bible tell you that it's all right for you to just let go and passively let God's right hand roll you through life. And quite the opposite, in fact. Now, a tensegrity, remember, that's the integrity that's achieved when tension is applied. Think of how a rope becomes firm and strong when it's pulled from opposite directions. David's verse here definitely has tension. Does his integrity come from the fact that he's clinging to God? Or does it come from the fact that God's right hand is upholding him? Well, of course, the answer is both. Derek Kidner explains this well. He writes, the two halves of verse 8 make one of the most vivid statements of the two facets of perseverance. David certainly clings with all of his might, but it is God himself who makes this possible. And the firmness of his upholding grasp is implied in the allusion to the right hand, the stronger of the two. So cling to God. Earnestly seek him. Long for him with your whole being, the way that you'd long for a drink of water in a dry and parched land. But do so with the comfort of knowing that your eternal security does not come from your strength or ability to cling. Rather, it comes from the almighty power of God's right hand. Well, as you pray today, use the AAA prayer pattern. That's where you begin your prayer by acknowledging who God is. Today, open your prayer to our Father, who upholds you with his right hand. Then as you pray, go on to align your life with God's will. Thank God for calling you to his sanctuary on the Lord's day to be empowered to cling to him. Then you can ask God for what it is that you need. Remember, everything else that you hear today will fade away, but the word of the Lord is unfading truth.